Okay, so I also want to go ahead and put down who's here real quick. Okay, so let me put this in a Viso, even though I know I'm recording. It's all right. I'll stop recording for just a second so that I don't have any issues with that. Okay, so this is Personal Finance Exam 2 review. We're going to do 18 questions, and the potential for these are that 6 of them might be on your test, but this is the pool of the problems that will be on your test. Okay, so nothing other than these. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're covering chapters 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Yeah. All right. So if Eric saves $91 a month, what by using coupons and doing comparison shopping, so what's the annual savings amount? Of course, you take the monthly amount times 12. Okay, and this one shows $1,092. What would the future value be over 20 years, assuming an interest rate of 5%? So this is assuming that he saves this much each year. Okay, and the interest rate in this problem is 5% for 20 years. And then just for calculation's sake, on the side here, I'm taking 20 years times the 1,092. So his total investment in this is $21,840, which they're not asking for, but I like to do that just to check it against what we get. So our future value should have quite a bit more than that, especially with the fact that it's 20 years into the future. All right, so here's my financial calculator, right? So this is going to be a 0. The amount we're setting aside each year from using coupons is 1,092, 5% for 20 years, compounded annually. Okay, compounded annually. So who else just came in? Okay, Lizzie just came in. Okay, I'll mark you down, Lizzie. Okay, so hang on just a second. Let me do it before I forget. There you are. Very good. Thanks for joining us. We are working on the exam review, and we're going to do it kind of fast. Okay, so we just found that. So now we're on the calculator looking for the future value, 5% in 20 years. So it looks to me like the future value of this annuity is $36,108.02. All right, so now let me put that in and see if we're calculating correctly. That is more than the investment that we put in, which is good to check against. Okay, so I think we're good. All right, there's that one. I'm sorry if this is a repeat, but it really doesn't hurt anybody. All right, we're talking about going out and comparing things that you shop for, right? So oftentimes, if you're going to compare items, you need to be able to know how much it is per quart or per ounce, or in this case, looking at a box of tissues per 100 tissues. So the best thing you can do, and be sure to watch if you get this one on your test, that you put it in cents. Okay, not cents as in a part of a dollar, but as in cents. So for the first one I have, my motor oil is $2.10. Okay, and it is, the size is 2.4 quarts. Okay, 228. So you would take the price of the item and divide it by how many units of measure, right? Units of measure, quart, an ounce per 100 tissues. So you'd have to get an idea of an amount per ounce. A lot of your grocery stores or a lot of your stores have labels on them that tell you how much an ounce, but you have to be careful because sometimes they don't have them all in the same unit of measure. I know you'd think they would, but you have to be careful. All right, so I got 87.5 cents, and they want this to 1 decimal place. Okay, 1 decimal place. So my motor oil turns out to be 87.5 cents a quart. My cereal turns out to be 19 cents an ounce. Canned fruit turns out to be 5.5 cents an ounce. Okay, so they said 1 decimal place. Oh, and it's gonna fuss at me. Okay. All right, so 5.6. All right, per ounce of canned fruit, the 100 tissues, I've got 116 cents. 116.7 cents per 100 tissues, and then my shampoo is 37.3 cents. Now, once again, you would take the amount of the item divided by the units, right? So those facial tissues, they're looking at them per 100 tissues. So instead of per tissue, the size has got my size has got 400 tissues. So I've got to fix that. So I just about turned this in wrong. Okay, so that made my tissues 87.5 cents per 100 tissues. Okay, per 100 tissues. So if you need help with how to calculate this, and you do need to turn it into cents, okay, you do need to turn it into cents. So let me see if I'm close with anything. Uh-oh, I'm off a couple things here. So let me see what I've done. Oh, yeah, I didn't change my size. All right, so let me go back. So for my canned fruit, it actually has 19 ounces with a 78-cent can, and that makes my canned fruit 4.1. Okay, so 4.1. And then the other one that was wrong was the shampoo, I think. Yep. So this one is 11 ounces. So you can't depend on the ounces being the same for each problem. They change too. So then this changes to 34.2. Let me see if I got it. I think, and I know some of you have turned this in already. Okay, so that's okay. But you know what? You can always practice it again if you wanted to prepare for the test. All right, this next one is about the net present value of a microwave that costs $240 and that you plan to be able to save $71 a year in time and food away from home. So assume an average return on your savings of 6% for 5 years, okay? So we've got a microwave. This is the net present value. Net present value means that something's going to be subtracted when it's all said and done. All right, so a lot of times you have to put money up front to make something happen. So our microwave is $240. So I'm going to put that here. And then let's go ahead and solve for the present value. So when we look at this, we're saving $71 a year. We have an interest rate of 5% and we're 6%, and we're looking at it 5 years into the future, 5 years, okay? So we want to know the present value of those $71 a year savings 5 years into the future. All right, so this one, you have to put the 0 in the future value. This is how much we'll be saving. So there's the present value of $299.08. Now let me go see, because I think it's different than the last one I did. So we're solving for the present value. We're saving $71 a year. Interest rate of 6 for 5 years. Present value is $299.08. Okay. Now we're going to subtract. So $299.08. We're going to subtract from there, and we get $59.08 as the net present value. So once 5 years has passed, right, then we're going to start actually saving money because you've got to recoup that money that you spent on the microwave. Okay, so let's give it a try. make sure I have everything in here. So the net present value of the microwave 5 years into the future is 5908, and they want it to 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places. So be sure to watch for that. Okay, number 4. Okay, I think this is one that was a little bit. All right, this is comparing rental costs to buying costs. First thing I would do is note what the interest rate is. Okay, we're going to make 2 columns, one for rental and one for purchasing a home. And what we're going to do is then we're going to pick the one based on cost. So based on the least cost is what the objective is of doing this. So my interest rate in my problem is 5%. Okay, so let me put that in 5%, and then I need a tax rate. The tax rates are just for the purchase. Okay, so 28%. So I checked that. So both of those are correct. Let's start with the rental. Okay, annual rent for all years, $75.20. Insurance, so there is an insurance policy for renters that protects your personal property. Okay, actually, let me go to this one. I think this one's better. Yeah, this one's better. So I think I've got, yeah. Okay, let me start over again. All right, 75.20, 152, and the rental deposit is 1,050. Okay, now this is for the first year, and we're trying to evaluate these annual costs and not include anything that might be different the first year. So down here, I went ahead and had the return of the deposit, assuming we're going to get it all back. When you rent, you have no equity growth and you have no appreciation because that's for purchases only. Okay, that's for purchases only. So, and once again, my rate is 5%. The only final cost in this rental scenario is the deposit of $1,050. The opportunity cost of using that deposit, taking it out of savings, how much savings am I losing, right? So I've got 1,050 times 5 times 1. Okay, so I've got to change my formula here. All right, so it looks like I've got 5,250. Okay, 5,250, there are no tax benefits for renting. So if I've got this in here correctly, it looks like the rental cost is $7,724.50. Now, I think the last time we did this, I think it's okay. I think it is grading correctly. This is the one we had troubles with in the chapter. And I think they have fixed this one, but it's the next one that was giving us troubles. All right, now let's line up the purchase items. Okay, the purchase items. All right, so the mortgage, the annual mortgage payments, we want $10,600. Now we do want to make note of how much that year's worth of payments, how much interest is in there. Okay, because the interest that we pay, right? And then the difference between the two. Okay, we want to know what the difference is between the mortgage payment in full and the interest payment, because that amount should equal your growth in equity. Okay, this is your growth in equity. It should be. And this is one of the things that wasn't agreeing with, growth in equity. We're just testing it. Okay, we're just testing it. So the first year we paid $994 towards equity. And we don't know how big our mortgage is. We just know the payment of it. All right, so then the next thing we're going to work on is insurance. So the yearly insurance premium is $19.20. The property tax is $21.70. The down payment is $4,500, which I think all of us have 4,500 as our down payment. Now here comes some payback, okay? Payback from purchasing, right? That growth in equity actually offsets some of our cost, okay? And I need to change that to a negative 994, and that is what the problem says. So those are in agreement, thankfully. The appreciation of the property is also an offset to our costs for the year. And then I'm showing the down payment coming back just like the deposit came back for the renter, because if we ever turn around and sell this piece of property, we'll get that return back, okay? And we're doing that once again to take the deposit and take the down payment out of the annual cost, because it only happens the first year. Okay, the first year is not your typical year. All right, but I did account for it, and that's why I put it in there and then took it out. Okay, then this last one is the opportunity cost of that down payment. My down payment was 4,500 and my interest rate is 5%. And so my amount of opportunity cost by taking my $45 out of savings and using it for my down payment is the last cost, next to the last cost for purchasing. So one more time, I'm just going to go back up through here and make sure that I'm not missing anything. All right. Then as a homeowner, there are 2 items on here that you should be able to itemize and deduct from your taxable income, right? So the interest, which mine is $996.06, and my property tax, okay, the property tax is $21.70. If I add those 2 together, the amounts, that's the amount I can deduct, okay? And then we're going to take that amount times my tax rate, right? So this is the formula here. My total deductions times my tax rate is right here, okay? So my total deductions minus my tax rate. So these tax benefits offset costs too, okay? So that's why they're in there as a negative. If they offset costs, they are negative. In fact, I'll put that right here. Negative when offsetting costs. So we have for the purchase 1, 2, 3, 4 negative numbers in this calculation that help bring the cost down. Okay, so yep, here's what I got for my buying cost. Pretty close. $7,623.72. So if you're going to base it on cost, it looks like my buying option is the lower of the 2, if I calculated everything correctly. Let's see if I'm right. Okay, so that one should work. But I think some of you, the rental is the more economic option. Does anybody need any help with? Yes, Chris, you want us to help you run through yours?
Yeah.
Sure, that's fine.
So I have a rental, I just don't have
The purchase?
Yeah.
All right. So what's your interest rate?
8%.
8%. Okay. So I'm going to change that to 8. What is your tax rate?
28.
Okay. All right. So how much is your total mortgage? $10,040.
Yep.
Okay. How much is interest?
9,665.
Okay. And so I'm going to just test this to see what the equity would be. So we take that whole mortgage payment and subtract that interest payment, and you should have equity growth of 375. Is that true? So when you get down here to equity, it should be negative 375, and that checks out. Okay, good. Okay, so then what is your insurance policy for the year?
2020.
$2,020. Okay,
Insurance slash maintenance.
uh-huh. And then how much is your property tax?
1,830,
Okay, how much is your down payment?
4,500.
Okay, I think we all have that same one. All right, so then you said that your growth in equity is 375. Okay, how much is your appreciation for the property? 1,500. Okay, 1,800. Okay, so we're putting that in as a negative because it helps offset the costs. And I went ahead and took out that down payment. Now we're going to get down here to the opportunity cost. Okay, your interest rate is 8. And we want to know what is the opportunity cost of the down payment of the $4,500. Okay, so I got 360 here. Okay. So that should be, like I said, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4 negative numbers. Okay, now here's probably where things I think are the most complicated. If you put in the amount of your interest, because you can deduct that from your taxable income, and then your property tax is 1,830. Okay, both of those added together add up to 11,495. If we take that times 28%, I believe we will find a benefit of taxes of $3,218.60. And then that is your last piece. And that's going to be a negative because it offsets the cost. Okay. So here are your costs if I put them in right. Okay, and then here's what they add up to. 8,856.40. You might try it for your buying cost and let us know if you got that right.
Yeah,
Okay, do you understand what I did?
yeah.
Where do you think you had the most trouble? Right here?
It was just trying to figure out what,
What all goes?
Yeah, where-
Yeah, I know, I get it, So, and once again, it's the purchasing that benefits from the taxes. Okay, so, I don't know what your other one was, so which is cheaper for you, the rent or to
rent.
rent? Okay, mine was to buy. Does anybody else need help? Are you sure? I mean, any part of it, don't hesitate. We'll work it through and I'll help you understand what's up here, right? Okay, all right, onward we go then. Let's go to number 5. Now, I think this is the one that caused the problems, if I remember right. Okay, we're gonna solve them based on this thing. Okay, this right here. Okay, so how you do this is, and this is just an estimate. This is not anything written in stone. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a mortgage amount, which is what that first number is, your mortgage amount. Then there's the term of the mortgage, and then there's the interest rate of the mortgage. Well, with this, you should be able, then you might put in mortgage payment calculation. I'm sorry that got chopped off at the top. Okay, what? I don't want you. All right. So I'm going to put my mortgage amount of 59,000. It's going to get divided by 1,000. Okay, now I don't have the result of that, but I've got it in my formula. So then I have a 15-year mortgage at 6.5. So now I'm going to go to the column 15 years at 6.5, and I get 8.71. 8.71. So what you do is to get your payment, okay, I think your payment should be within like 500 to 1,500 bucks. I mean, you got to kind of have a halfway reasonable mortgage payment, right? So here's what I did. I took 59,000 and divided by 1,000, which is right here in my formula. and then I took it times this factor. So whatever this results times this factor gives me an approximation of my mortgage payment. Okay, and like I said, I don't think this is working, but I'm gonna try it, and they want it to 2 decimals. 2 decimals because that's how our money works, is 2 decimals, okay? If this isn't right, everybody's gonna get credit for this anyway, okay? If it isn't right, you're gonna get credit for it anyway. So give it a try. And then I'm moving on to my second mortgage amount, which is B, okay? So the second mortgage amount for me is 155,000. And I'm looking at 30 years at 4%. So I think we're all going to look at, the first one will be a 15-year mortgage. The second one will be a 30-year mortgage, and the third one will be a 20-year mortgage. Okay, so my second one is 4%. So I got to go get a factor here. Okay, my factor is 30 years and 4%. So I'm looking at 4.77. So I'm looking at an estimated mortgage payment a month of $739.35. Okay. Last one. Okay, last one is $128,000 mortgage. It's going to get divided by 1,000. It's for 20 years at 8%. Okay, so I got to go find my factor. And if you're done, if you quietly just hang out with this, that'd be great. Work on something else if you can. So I'm looking at 20 years, 8%. We're looking at 8.36. So, all right. Let me see what it's doing. Probably not fixed. Okay, so I don't want anybody to worry about this. Okay. If you are not going to get that on the test, I've already looked. I've disallowed it. Okay. But even though it's not marking it right, I want you to think about this. So the longer the mortgage, the smaller the monthly payment, right? Yep. The longer the mortgage, the smaller the monthly payment, which helps some people afford a house better. Although the longer you have a mortgage, usually the more total interest you'll pay. But the other thing is, if your mortgage rate is higher, right? What's the highest one here? 8%. They're going to pay a higher monthly payment. If you have an adjustable rate mortgage that adjusts with the economy up and down, then your payment will be more or less based on which direction the interest rates are going. Okay, I think we got those 2 right. Okay, so once again, this is for this review, I will add your points back or just disallow this altogether because I don't know what's going on. And I'm not going to spend any more time worrying about it. So sorry about that. And that goes for those of you watching the video and on Zoom. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to number 6 now. So this is similar to what we just did, but now we're going to, so Ben and Zane Manchester plan to buy a condominium. They will obtain a $246,000 20-year mortgage at 8%. Their annual property taxes are expected to be $1,956. Property insurance is $720 a year, and the condo association fee is $255 a month. Based on these items, determine the total monthly housing payment for the Manchesters. First thing we got to do is run that mortgage through this. Okay, so we're going to put down the mortgage, and then let's put the terms of the mortgage in. Okay, so mine is now 20 years at 8%. I heard the news talking about mortgages that possibly could be 50-year mortgages. Woo-wee. So it might really help somebody buy a house, but the mortgage may outlive them. Who knows? You know, the mortgage could outlive anyone that suddenly passed away. So that's not really all that big a deal. All right, let's go find my factor, and you're gonna find your factor based on whatever these terms, right? Whatever the terms. So I'm going to the 20-year column. At 8%, I'm getting 836. So let me put that in there. So then let me check this. All right, so 836. Okay, my mortgage payment per month approximately is $2,056.56. Now, they gave us property tax, but they gave us the annual amount. So we put in your property tax. They also gave us the insurance premium for the year. So each of these amounts they give us annually. I have divided these amounts by 12. You would want to divide each of these two amounts by 12 and then add that to the mortgage payment. And then finally, the condo association fee is $255. That is by the month. Okay, that is already by the month. So you don't have to change that. So if I add all four of these amounts together, I get a total monthly housing payment of $2,534.56. So I just typed it all in and then it rounded it for me pretty nice. Let's see if this one's working or not. Maybe. Okay, that one seems to be working. So they've got the table working in this one. So it's 5 that's not. Does anyone need help with 6? I think the hardest part about this is seeing, of course, solving for the monthly payment of the mortgage and then making sure the property tax and the insurance is divided by 12 to see what those come out to be monthly. Okay, so good job. All right, onward we go. Onward we go. Now we're ready to start talking some insurance. Remember, insurance is something that you'll pay for that you hope you'll never have to use, right? But boy, when you need it, you're glad you have it. All right, so this one says, what would it cost? Okay, what would it cost to replace a family's personal property that originally cost $117,000 if the replacement cost for the items has increased by 7%? So personal property adds up to more than you realize. Okay, I'm going to put that amount in my spreadsheet. $117,000 is how much. That's their furniture, their clothes, their personal items, right? And by the way, that's usually what is insured if you're going to have rental insurance, usually. Okay, now we are looking at in this problem a cost increase of 7%. So from when they took the policy out to, and it doesn't even say how long into the future this is, and it doesn't really matter. So remember, there are two ways to solve for this. You can do it the long way or you can do it the short way. Doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer. So 7%. Okay, so I've got 117,000 times 7%. Here's my answer. Here's the extra 7%. And if I go that route, then I got to add it to the original cost. So to replace this amount of personal property tax with an increase of 7%, the insurance company will pay $125,190. Okay, $190. And the fast way to do this is to take your change, right, which is 7%, and just put a 1 in front of it. Okay, so if you put, okay, so not a 1 in front of it, but make sure it's 107%. So put 100 with it. Put 100 with it. So times 107%, which is 1.07. Okay, and there you have it. You can either add the increase. Now, if they were to ask what that extra 7% is, this would be the only way you could do it. Okay, the only way you could do it is you'd have to put that down. But this is supposed to represent inflation or the economy's price increase. All right, let's go to 8. So you oftentimes will get savings on insurance if you bundle them together, kind of like the commercials tell you. So Beverly and Kyle currently insure their cars with separate companies, paying $620 and $640. So I'm going to write those two down. Here's how much Beverly's paying a year, and here's how much Kyle is paying a year. So here's their total insurance premiums for the year, right? If they bundle and insure both cars under the same company, they will save 15%. Okay, so the last one I did save 20%. So let me put 15% there. And let me put not 1,500%. That's not what I want. There we go. So what is the annual savings? So let me check my formula. Yep, I got it down. Now that's not the answer, but you got to get to what the annual savings is in order to get to your answer. Now we're going to put it into an account that pays 8%. And we're going to do this every year for 10 years in a row to predict the future value of savings, right? Future value of the savings. And I've got an interest rate of 8% for 10 years. Now let me go find this on the calculator. Opens in a new window. Okay. Just for kicks. Oh, that's the table. See, they don't use the table anywhere else. So I don't want you to use the table because I don't trust the answer that it should be correct, but all right. So what's going to happen here is we're going to put in a 0 for the present value. We're going to put in the amount we plan to save by bundling those together, which is $189. We're looking for the future value. We found an account that pays 8%, and we're looking 10 years into the future. So it looks like it's $2,737.96. If you wanted to test it, a little bit, $189 times 10 years would actually be part of the investment was money from them, right? Money from them, which is $1,890. But the difference between that amount and the amount we've calculated is the interest that was earned. All right, so let's give this a try. So the future value should be $2,737.96. Okay, let's see if I'm right. And they say to use 2 decimal places. I think we're good. All right, moving on. So now we got to go through the automobile insurance stuff. Remember the weird looking fraction. Weird looking fraction tells you the limits of your insurance. So mine is 50, 100, and 15. So apparently that is what I had the last time I did this problem also. Okay, this person was in a windstorm, hit a parked car and a damaged storefront. So the good news is nobody was hurt, but it was all property damage. All right, so I'm going to put in the amount of the property damage. So there's the parked car, and there is the damage to the storefront. So in total, it was $25,500, but all insurance is going to pay is the limit. Okay, that's all they'll pay, right? Is the $15,000. That'll be the last number in these series of 3. What's the first number? One person's medical damage. The second number is all people's medical damage. And the third number is property damage. Remember, those are limits. limits in thousands. Okay, limits in thousands. So the good news is all you really needed to look at was, well, what is the limit? But we wanted to test what the damage was. So insurance will pay $15,000. But if they were to ask how much remains after, or how much the policyholder has to pay out of pocket for this damage, it's the difference. It's the $10,500, which is the property damage minus the limit. Okay, so there are limits. Now, you say, well, what about the commercials on TV that you go get a lawyer? And well, that's a different scenario. And to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about that stuff, and I'm not even going to try. But I think there's a certain way you can get more out of an insurance company than their limit. But I don't know. But if it's your fault, yeah, you're going to probably have to pay. All right, number 10. Okay, now we're going to look at medical insurance. Medical insurance. The Keller family has health insurance coverage that pays 75% after a deductible of $1,100 has been met per person. So I need to change mine. The last one I did was 80%. So now this one says out of hospital, the coverage that pays 75% of out of hospital expenses. Out of hospital. I think that's supposed to pay. I think that's supposed to be out of network. Yeah, I think they've missed that word there. I'm going to put out of network, but it doesn't matter. So what this policy does is the policyholder has to pay $1,100 before this insurance basically kicks in. Okay, out of network. I've never heard of out of hospital expenses. Okay, so they're going to pay 75% once that deductible has been met. Okay, and then the policyholder will have to pay 25% out of pocket. So let's see. We had a family member have $2,460 worth of expenses. We subtract that annual deductible. That leaves $1,360. And we're going to take that times the co-insurance. Co-insurance means both sides pay. Okay, the insurance company will pay 75%, and that means that the insured will pay the other half, the other part of that, which will be 25%. Okay, so it looks like to me, if you subtract the deductible and then take 75% of what remains, here's how much the insurance company will pay. They'll pay $1,020 of this medical bill. Okay. And then out of pocket from the family is $1,440. Now they didn't ask for that, but if you add both of these up, it should come to the whole bill, right? The whole bill, because the whole bill will have to be paid. Insurance is going to pay some, and out of pocket for the family. Now, just for kicks, I want to show you one thing. Let's say they already met their deductible. Let's say that it was later in the year and they already met their deductible. So that subtraction of the annual deductible isn't, you don't do that once you've met it, because you only have to meet it once a year. Then that left the whole bill times 75%. So now the insurance company is actually going to pay $1,845. That's quite a bit more of the bill once you've met your deductible. And once again, that's why a lot of people wait until the end of a year with their medical insurance to have a procedure done so that the insurance will pay more. Okay, but just remember, this did include the deductible. So that's why you have different amount. Does anyone need me to help you with this? Nope. Okay. Moving on. Number 11. Stephanie was injured in a car, rushed to the emergency room. All right. Her plan has a network hospital. So she's going to a hospital in the network. So anytime you can do that, it's better. They'll pay more. Okay, they'll pay more. Okay, so what is the deductible? The deductible is $550. What happens after the deductible? The policy pays 80% once the deductible has been met. Our ER bill is $2,000. Okay, once we subtract the deductible, then we have $1,450 left over, and then 80% of that bill, right? Let me make sure 80% is $1,160. So this is the insurance payment. Be careful. I've got them flip-flopped. Okay, so the insurance payment will be $1,160. Once again, that's the ER bill minus the deductible and then 80% of that number. So then the rest will be out of pocket. What is the amount Stephanie has to pay? Stephanie's considered the insured. The insured is the name of her, right? So she's going to pay $840, because when you take $840 and add it to $1,160, you get the whole bill. Okay, you get the whole bill. So once you know how much the insurance will pay, then just subtract it from the whole bill, and then you'll know how much Stephanie has to pay. Once again, this was before the deductible was met. So the deductible is included. And just for fun, well, what if they had already met their deductible? Here's what it would look like. A $2,000 ER bill, once the deductible has been met, is going to pay 80% of the $2,000. So that's a little better on the insured for the deductible to be met. Okay, but you can't always control when that happens. Next question. Oh, it's this one. Okay, here we go. All right, so if you haven't done this one, get your paper out, and I will help you if you need it. But let's see what we can do to take care of this. Now, the best place to start on this one, this is a person choosing a healthcare plan at their job, okay? And it is choosing this C. Okay, so the POS plan. So we're going to go look at what his medical bills were from the prior year. Okay, let's put it in. Okay, so let's get started. Mine says that he visited, here's where you need to look, 4 times during the year at $145 each. Put that down on a piece of paper or on whatever, however you're taking notes. I'm going to go 4 times at $145 each. So I'm putting that in. Okay. So let me do the math here. So last year he went to the doctor 4 times at $145 each. So that was $580 just for his doctor visits. Then I think we all have 2 prescriptions, 2. But we have different costs of those prescriptions. So mine is 105 plus 78 is what I've got. So that's next here. He also spent 105 and 78 on 2 prescriptions for the year. Okay, you'll need those 2 amounts. Okay, so now let me add those 2 together. And then we're going to add his doctor visits and his prescriptions together to see how much his medical bills were from last year. Okay, last year he spent $763 annually on his medical costs, right? So you're going to need that. Okay, just hang on to that. Now we're going to start calculating this plan, all right? And this plan has quite a bit of detail to it. Okay, so this third option, you're going to look for how much the premium cost you a month. So how much a month is this plan going to cost you? So I've got $33.50. You're going to put that in as your first cost of this Plan C. Okay, so this is Plan C. Let me put Plan C here. Okay, so annually. So once again, I'm paying $33.50. You're going to take that times 12 and come up with an amount, okay? Come up with an amount, and that's going to be the cost of your annual premiums. Even though we know it by the month, we can turn it into an annual amount by taking it times 12. Has everybody got their annual premium? Everybody okay with that? Okay. So there's really, that is your number one cost of this plan. Okay, now here comes things that get kind of weird. So what they said was that once he has this plan, they can choose a provider in the network or out of the network. Okay, he said, what's the difference? It says that if the employee uses healthcare providers within the network, the copays are the same as the HMO above. Here's this HMO. The HMO did not have a deductible, did not have a premium or a deductible. They just had copays, okay? But that wasn't the case because it says, for the purposes of the POS computation, assume that Riley visited a physician outside of the network. So what we have to do is now run his medical bills from last year right here. It says employees can also choose to use healthcare provider out of the network and pay a 15% charge after a $500 deductible. All right, so let's go back. So I'm going to put in here how this works, okay? The annual deductible. I'm going to put the annual deductible in here. We may not have met the deductible. Some of you will meet your deductible, some of you won't. Okay, my annual deductible for Plan C is $500. So I'm writing that down and putting it in. Okay, $500. Okay. And so I'm going to put equals $500. Where do I have that at? Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to put in the deductible right now. I just don't know yet. Okay, so I'm putting in the deductible. Okay, so this is going to be a cost, but it's only if we surpass it. So then what's going to happen is, now that once again, this is the cost to Riley, not to the medical insurance company. He's then going to have to pay 15% of any medical charges after the deductible. Okay, after the deductible. So this $580 up here, okay, represents 4 visits. Okay, so I've got 4 visits times that 145. And then I'm going to subtract my deductible. And then I'm going to take the whole thing times 15%. Yikes. Okay, so if you need to see that formula, I can blow it up more if you need to. So one more time, mine surpassed the deductible, but not by a lot. Okay, not by a lot. So I'm going to have to pay the deductible. Okay, and then I'm going to have, how much did mine pass? So if you go up and look at, I got $580 going to the doctor. I'm going to take my cost and I'm going to subtract my deductible. And then that's the amount, that's $80, but I'm only going to have to pay 15% of that. Okay, so just one more time, let me put this on the outside here. Here's the amount that my costs surpassed my deductible, right? take your costs and subtract your deductible. If you have a positive number, then you're gonna owe a little more. If you don't have a positive number, you're just gonna put in your costs. So I'm gonna go around to each one of you and I'm gonna ask here in a minute. All right, so let me finish. So now I'm gonna take 15% of this extra $80 past the deductible, okay? So I'm gonna take $80 times 0.15. So he has to pay $12. And then the last one is his prescriptions. His prescriptions he bought in network. So his prescriptions, according to the HMO plan, are $12 each. So he only had 2 prescriptions last year, thank goodness. And so he's gonna, if he follows the same pattern of health, he is going to have to pay $24 for his prescriptions. All right, so this is a little bit complicated, I know, and I'll help you if you need it. And that will help those that are out there on Zoom understand what we have to do. So one more time, I'm going to see if I can figure this, make sure I'm doing this right. So the annual premium for this plan to be in place should be the premium amount per month times 12. That's our first cost. Then our out of network charges, okay, is going to create a deductible. My deductible was met. So I'm going to put $500 deductible met. $500 deductible met. Okay, that means I got to add 500 to the cost. Now we're going to look at just his office visits from last year. So however much you found those office visits to be, you need to test it. Does your deductible go beyond do your medical visits last year go beyond the deductible? Yes, mine went beyond $80. And of that amount, he's going to pay 15%. Okay, and then the last one should be just 2 scripts, which we each have, for however much your HMO says the copay is for a script. So the hardest part of this problem is going to be testing the annual deductible, whether it was met or it wasn't. And then if it was met, how much extra beyond the deductible it is times that copay of his. Okay, I'm going to put my amount in and see if it's grading it all right. I think I've got everything. I've gone back through it quite a few times, but here we go. Let me see. Oh, they want it 2 decimals. Okay, 938.00. I will help you if you need it. Okay, so there it is. Let's see if it's right. Okay, does anybody need help? Want me to help you? You don't? If you got her, that's good. That's great. Okay. One more thing to those out there that are watching. Okay, I'm going to pretend for a moment that my annual deductible is more because I want to show you what you would do. Does that sound okay? Real quick. So if my annual deductible was $600 in this, okay, so my costs were the same, but let's say that my deductible was $600. All right, let's put that in. In this case, my costs did not meet my deductible, so I'm not going to pay the deductible in full. Okay, I'm not, because my medical costs were $580, right? $580, not $600. You don't pay for a $600 deductible with $580 worth of costs. So all you need to do is take the deductible out, and you're going to have to pay all of that medical bill because that medical bill didn't surpass the deductible. So you're going to have to pay it all. So I'm going to put the whole medical bill right here. okay, the whole medical bill. Okay, and so we didn't even have to go through all this, you know, because we didn't meet our deductible. You don't meet the deductible and then take a negative to it. No, no. So if your deductible was exactly what you paid in medical costs, then once again, it would be the deductible that you met and nothing else. So anyway, I hope that helps. I'm going to keep going because we're going to get done now. Okay. And from now on, the next one should be pretty quick. Pretty quick. Now we're going to start looking at life insurance. Okay. Life insurance. There's several methods for calculating how much life insurance need a person would have, right? So the first one's called the multiple of income method. Multiple of income method. So the minimum in the book is 5 years worth of, and this is use the multiple of income method. Okay, multiple of income. So let's put down the income, 67,000 times 5. So this is the minimal amount of insurance you should possibly shop for. Doesn't mean you have to. It's just a target. Okay. 14, when you purchase life insurance that has a death benefit of $580,000. Okay, we're going to run this life insurance policy through time value of money. So once again, the proceeds of a life insurance policy, person dies, somebody gets those proceeds, right? They have a beneficiary. You have to assign a beneficiary on life insurance or the policy is not active. Okay, the policy is not active unless you fill that in. So we're going to put the future value. The future value of $580,000 is going into the calculator. 4% is our rate, and this person passes away 9 years after taking out the policy. So we're going to calculate what the present value of those proceeds are. Okay, remember, $580,000 9 years into the future is not going to buy as much today. Okay, it's not going to. It's going to buy less 9 years in the future. Yep. So it's not going to have as much purchasing power. So we're trying to understand the present value of the purchasing power. So I'm going to feed this into the calculator. And this is a present value solving, present value. So we want to solve for the present value. Payments get 0. The future value of the policy. And we're looking at 4%. And this is if you could look into the future with a crystal ball, right? And know when someone passes. So there's really no way that you can, I mean, you can estimate it. So $407,531 is what the present value is of $58,000 in the future with 4% 9 years into the future. Okay, so there is the amount. Okay, so let's see if it's grading okay. So in today's money, that's the purchasing power of it. In today's money, it's almost $100,000 less. No, it's more than $100,000 less. Does everybody see that? You know, I'd like to be able to spend $580,000, but unfortunately, because it's 9 years into the future, it'll only buy about $407,000 worth of whatever you're going to spend it on. Whatever you're going to spend it on. Finding the present value. Okay. Number 15. Okay, number 15. So suppose you're 45 and have $110,000 face value, 15-year limited payment participating policy. Yeah, there's a lot of things about a life insurance policy, and we didn't cover it, and it's not this one. But if I wanted to, I could grab this problem, right? New, and I could put it up here so that I could keep track of it better. That's fine. I'm going to put it right here. Oop. Okay. So we're trying to find the cost of the insurance. Well, okay. So what we want to do, and let me make this smaller. Okay. So your annual premium is $385. Put your annual premium in for your payment. That's how much you're paying for this life insurance policy. Well, what if you sock that money away in an account, right? That pays 7% in 15 years. Okay, 7% in 15 years. What is its future value? Now that's not the answer, but it's part of the answer. So we need to see what this future value will be, okay, of the policy, right? We're going to find the future value of an annuity. If we would have socked this away in an account instead of buying insurance. Okay, so present value is 0. Payments are $385. We're looking for the future value at 7% for 15 years. So the future value is $9,674.67. Okay, there it is. We're going to put that number in right here. Okay, we're going to put that in because we're going to compare. So the top number is what you found for the future value. And the second number is the cash value of the policy. The cash value of this policy says, okay, so you'll have to go look for yours. Mine is $4,400. Okay, $4,400. Let me put that in. $4,400. We're going to subtract. Nope. Hang on a minute. I got to put that in as a negative. We're going to subtract the cash value from the future value. If we would have socked away that premium every year, so the net cost of the insurance is the difference. Okay. So once again, if you get this one, it's the future value goes on the top, and then you simply enter the cash value from the problem and subtract it. Okay. So the cost is going to be the difference. What's the key? What's the key to knowing something's going to be subtracted? The word net. The word net means something's going to be subtracted before it's all over. And what does get subtracted is the cash value they tell you from the future value you calculated. Okay, so the net cost in my problem is $5,274.67. Okay, that's the net cost of the policy, net cost of the insurance. Does anybody need help? Okay. All right, 16, pretty quick. How about an emergency fund before you start investing? The book suggests that the minimum amount of an emergency fund is your monthly expenses times 3. Now notice they put the take-home pay there just to mess with your head. Okay, so be sure to put the expenses down. Okay, so I've got $3,410 times 3. Okay, that is $10,230. That is the amount that is the minimal recommendation to have in an emergency fund, like in a savings account or somewhere you could get to it today. All you have to do is make a phone call, or all you have to do is get on your online banking and move some money over or something like that. Not something that's going to take a week, right? Make sure you got an emergency fund going and use it or have it available before you start investing, okay? Last one is some investments that we're going to do. Notice we're using the same annual deposit every time. Okay, so this is going to be an annuity. The interest rate's going to change and the time is going to change. But here's what I want you to do. Before we start, I would like for you to take your premium, right? So the annual deposit of $1,400. I want you to take whatever that annual deposit is times the number of years. That's in the middle column. okay, the middle column, the amount that was your money, okay, your money. So I'm going to take $1,400 times 9. And this is the amount I'm investing, right? It's from my money. Okay, so $1,400 times 9 for me. You're going to have to figure out yours times 9. I got $12,600. That's going to be the first two total amount invested. Now, the next one, all you have to do is change it to 18 years instead of 9. Okay, 18 years instead of 9. So that'll be the answer to this one. Okay, so same amount of the annual deposit, but this time for mine is for 18 years. Yeah, 18 years. So that's twice as long, right? Twice as long. All right, and that amount will also be, so that'll be for 3 and 4. Okay, 3 and 4. So let's put those amounts in. So I've got 12,600. You could just take it times 2, I guess. That's pretty much it. 25,200. 25,200 is the amount from us. Okay, now we need to plug this in to the calculator, time value of money calculator. So I'm going to go up here. My first one is a payment of $1,400 at 8% for 9 years. Okay, 8% for 9 years. And I'm going to go find the future value of an annuity. Okay, so if you're done, it's okay. So I'm just going to put $1,400 in here at 8% for 9 years. I'm looking at, and I'm going to go ahead and solve them, 17,482.58. Okay, and then we'll need to know the difference. What is the difference between what the time value of money says equals and minus what you put in of your own money? Okay, so there's your interest earnings. So let's put that first one in. My first one is 17,482.58, and my total earnings of interest is 4,882.58. Okay, so you can check it. And there you go. Okay, so it's just a matter of putting it in and then subtracting. So my next one again is 1,400, but this time it is at 12% for 9 years. Okay, so if you're done, you can be on your way, but I'm going to go ahead and continue the video. Okay, if you're not done, you can stay and watch if you need it, or you can be on your way out. Bless you. Okay, thanks for staying. And let me know if you have any questions. All I had to do on this one is change the rate. So you guys on there, just be sure to do your exam by next Tuesday, not tomorrow. Wait, not tonight, not
A
tonight.
week from tonight.
Yes. Yeah.
All righty.
Okay, see you guys later.
See you Thursday.
I'm going to finish this up so I can get this on a video. All right, my second one. 20,685.92. Okay, and then I want to check the interest earnings. Okay. All right, 20,685.92 with interest earnings of 8,085.92. Okay, and then the future value of $1,400. Again, that didn't change. This time 8% for 18 years. So double the time. You just can't take it times 2. That's not how it works. Nope. Okay, let me plug this into the calculator. Looking for the future value at an 8% rate, but this time for 18 years. Okay, so I got 52,430.34. When I subtract my, okay, hang on, I want to do it this way. I don't want to use the table because they're not doing that very good. Okay, I'm going to use the amount I got from my calculator minus my invested amount, and I got 27,230. So we'll see ya. Shelley, thanks for coming in. Okay, all right, you too, 35,903. There it is. I'm gonna subtract that total investment amount. And then let me make sure I'm doing this right. I don't think so. Hang on. I gotta make sure I'm looking at the right place. All right, yeah, 52,430.34. I'm gonna subtract 25,200. And then I have interest earnings of 27,000. Let me put this in here, 27,230. 27,230.34, and they, oh, nearest whole number. Okay, the last one should be the best earnings. The best earnings, because I'm putting in 1,400 every year. Okay, 1,400 every year, and this time I want to put in 12% for 18 years. So this one should be the best of all of them. Okay, because it's got the highest interest rate for the longest amount of time. Okay, so let's put this in. And you guys out on Zoom, if you're done, you don't have to stay. I'm going to finish my video so that I can get this out to my online students. Okay, so go ahead and be on your way. I think I've got everybody that was in Zoom with us today. So here is the future value of this one. It's the one that made the most money, 78,049.60. Now the difference is, okay, and I want to fix this. I want it to come from the future value of the calculator minus my invested amount is 52,849. Wow. Okay, so let's put this in. So it ended up being 78,049.60 as my future value. If I subtract the amount I invested, 52,430. Nope, 52,849.60 is the interest earnings. Once again, this cell takes the future value and subtracts the investment to give me my interest earnings. Let's pray that I got it. Okay, one more and we're done. One more. So number 18, assume at the beginning of the year, you have an investment. Okay, so you always put your purchase down first. Okay, put your purchase down of an investment. Okay, so we invested $49.80. We have an extra income, okay, of 308. And then assume that the investment's value actually went down by the end of the year. So this is actually the revalue. Hang on just a second. Let me move this up. Okay, and then we can put this. So you don't have to sell an investment for you to have a gain. Okay, you can, you have to report your capital gains on your tax return. All right, so we actually have a gain here, and this is revaluing it at the end of the year. I'll put year-end revalue. Okay, so it's less money than what we bought it for. So put that on the top. And then when you subtract, you see that you have a loss, right? But then that annual income helped offset some of that loss. So they didn't want to know the total amount of return on investment, but it's actually a negative 192, right? What they want is the rate of return. How do you get your rate of return? You take the return amount, which is right here, and divide by the amount invested. Okay, so I'm going to show you that in a cell here, what mine was. Mine was 192, negative 192 divided by the amount we invested. Okay, we invested $4,980. Okay, so remember, when you have a negative number, divided by a positive number, it turns into a negative number. Okay, so here's what I did. I took my return and I divided it, hold on, I'm not quite done, by 4980. So, and it was a negative 4980, so it's gonna be a negative. Okay, hang on, it's a negative. Okay, it is a negative, so I'm going to, hang on just a minute. I'll just put the amount in. It just works out better. We first invested with $4,980. So we actually have a rate of return of 3.86, but it's a negative, and they want you to put the whole number in here and then say whether it's positive or negative here. I believe we all are negative because I wanted you to see what that's like. Because most of the examples we worked in class were positive. So that's it. That's it for the review. We'll see you guys later. See you on Thursday for chapter 14. And just to remind you that the test is due a week from today, not tonight, unless you just want to get it over with. But the test, because I didn't want such a quick turnaround, I wanted you to be able to work your review. Right, so this review we just did and exam 2 will be due on the 18th, okay? But we also will need to get 14 and 15 done so we can be finished because we're in the 5-week countdown, okay? That's it, guys. See you later.